What's up, everyone? Mike from What the Fun. This debate section is from our latest episode of Test Your Might, the weekly video game debate show. The full episode is found on any podcast app of choice, with Apple and Spotify links down below. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.
All right, we're in the final question. The blind fight's so blind, I haven't even decided which of the two I'm gonna ask yet.
It's blind to you?
It's blind to me, baby.
Do you need a coin to flip?
Ooh. You know what? Because whoever handed me the coin would obviously, I couldn't be impartial to them.
I can respect that. Okay. Also, I don't have a coin.
I have this two-sided coin.
All right, you know what? We're going to cross this first one off, family-friendly podcast. I'm not sure I can ask this and keep this family-friendly if I ask this first one. So, in honor of seeing both Diablo 4 and Midnight Suns on Mike's Xbox today, tell me the best game featuring a monster mommy.
Oh my goodness. A monster? Okay.
Monster mommy. I mean,
Lilith is in both.
Demons. They both have Lilith, the mother of demons. Yes. But there's other kind of monster mommies.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to keep you to.
There's a lot of options.
Demons specifically, or even Lilith specifically.
I got a lot of options. You're good.
Okay. All right. All right.
I got my answer.
You both have your answers. Yeah. All right. Where are we at? Brian, you are winning. Mike, what do you want to do? Do you want him to go first? You go first? What do you want?
I'll go second. I'll go second.
So for those of you that don't know, I trained to be a historian. So my gut response is to go back to the origin of the monster mommies. And in a lot of ways, that is Shodan. So I am going back to System Shock, which again was recently remade, and going back to the most monstrous of all mommies, and possibly the most terrifying of our modern age, one built around AI coming to kill us all. Because the world we live in is something. And so I think Shodan kind of, in many ways, prototyped that within video games. Part of it was that it was like a pretty early shooter with full voice acting. And so you had an actual Vox Femme, right? You had an actual female voice that was like essentially antagonizing you in the game, and also trying to claim you in a way, to the point where, again, the death animation in that game is not like, oh, you're just a corpse. It is, you are then integrated into her family, so to speak, right? And so there's a huge part of the fandom that loved that way of dying, it is fair to say, right? And there are also ways where you could just not pay attention and goof up, or on purpose complete Shodan's objective for her in the missions. You can instead of turning off the laser, you can turn it on and just blow up Earth. That's the thing you can just choose to do if you're like, yeah, maybe Shodan had the right idea, maybe I should join her. And I think on top of that, the way the most recent remake even basically turns the CEO of the company from just being a mindless convert to just being a simp for Shodan, kind of metatextually kind of goes and reinforces that as well.
All right, we got Shodan, System Shock. What are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, that got a 9 out of 10 from a lot of outlets. That remake was really good. So listeners, Brian, is clearly a historian. He knows a lot of things. But I am also a historian, and history has proven that everybody who is listening right now loves video games. And everybody who is listening right now was a child and not an adult at some point. And they also had late night gaming sessions that were thwarted by the true monster mommy telling us to go to bed. That's right, your mom is the monster mommy of video games because you are being told to go to bed too early. And I can tell you many other instances where this is the true monster mommy of video games.
Wow. Powerful. Vocally and rhetorically.
Yeah.
We might get our own monster mommy coming down.
I was going to say, beginning of my rebuttal comment would have honestly been, bravo for taking the fact that your wife is going to be so mad you can do that. After saying you would not.
It's all right. She's not sleeping yet. We're good.
Did you check? No.
Yeah, I just heard her footsteps like 5 seconds ago.
Okay.
Maybe 5 minutes, but...
Brian.
Actual rebuttal stuff. Yeah, I mean, I will say experientially, without giving any doxing information, we went to school together. You know my mom.
No, we didn't.
Oh, we went in proximity. We went like a church.
Yeah.
The point I'm getting to is you're over at my house all the time.
Yes,
you knew
that
my
is
mom.
true.
My mom was not the one telling us to go to bed, right? Like, as many people...
Yeah, it was me just falling asleep.
Yeah, that was your body. In that case. As much as a stereotype of like, the mom yelling to go to bed, there are like a lot of actually really cool moms out there who are like supportive of like their kids being into games. And there's also a lot of others who just like weren't super controlling in that way. So I think like that experience is less universal than you're arguing it is. A. B, I think the general term monster mommy, as it generally exists, is very much going for like Lady D energy, right? It is very much like... It's a French name I don't feel like trying to pronounce. I'm going to just be honest here. Like, it is a term that is in a parlance and very much means this like archetypical, strong, powerful, antagonistic female monstrosity. And I think to say the greatest one of those in games is like a concept you may or may not have experienced in the form of like a more authoritarian leading parent. I think it's just cutting a lot of experiences short, right? Because like not everyone has a mom around. Like some people, there are divorces, there is the experience where you have two dads, right? Like it is not a universal experience to have like a female authoritarian in the household that's doing that stuff. But like the experience within gaming specifically of like the female antagonist that has those vibes, I think is like very particular and in some ways honestly probably more universal at this point, in that every genre has one of those at this point, short of maybe like Tetris.
So for me, I'm harping on the experience that we've had as kids, and obviously you did have a cool mom, and so did I. But I think my mom's a little different. She's mentally ill, so like she was just not really authoritarian at all. So I definitely agree that there are kids who experience the same moms that we had, right? But I've heard stories of kids having certain moms that stop them from playing late, and like it's just putting yourself in that shoe, and seeing and feeling how antagonistic that mom is. But in general, obviously, that mom is just doing what's right by their kid in many ways. Certainly, like, go to bed. You got to get to school, right? But I'm just harping on the vibes of a kid in that situation. The true, like, the antagonist of my gaming time could potentially be my mom, right? And I don't know what the ratio is, right? I think we could leave that up to conjecture, because we don't know what the, is it 2-to-1 good moms versus bad moms, in video game? We don't know, right? But at the end of the day, like, there is not just the late nights as well. There is the, I did something poor and now I have the consequence of my mom taking away my video games, right? That is the true monster mommy, right? Because they're taking away my fun. They're taking away my joy. Yeah, certainly this is how we grow, right? As an adult, we can learn from that, like, why our video games was taken away. But in that moment, I'm talking about like in the moment when you want to play video games the most, the monster mommy that is in the video game is not taking you away from video games, or not potentially, they might be a strong boss or something like that. They're not potentially hindering your video game time, but when video games are taken away, that's a true monster mommy.
All right, Brian. Yeah, Brian. What is Shonen gonna do to me to take away when I've been a bad boy or I need to go to bed?
Yeah.
How does Shonen take my video games away?
Yeah, so how should I take your video games away? I mean, one obvious way that is somewhat joke but somewhat not is the original save file configuration setup for System Shock was terrible and very easy to override your saves. So there are many ways in which Shodan's UI killed you many times and took much video game away. But beyond that, I think it's really important to remember that, like you said a couple times, like, your framework for this, right, is like, in a moment, like, even looking back now, like, oh, it's for good reasons, you kept saying, right? Like, it is for all these, like, positive things, and it was more like your momentary limited perspective in that moment that felt monstrous about it. What I think is more powerful about, like, a Shodan or that type of, like, monster mommy is the experience of it doesn't decrease as time goes on. It tends to increase, right? This figure becomes more iconic. There are more threads on forums, I'm not going more specific, that get devoted to them over time. And they become almost bigger than your memory of the thing, right? They grow to become iconic. And that experience with your mom grows to be comprehensible. And I think it is, once it becomes comprehensible in that way, it cannot remain so reprehensible. And I think that is the weakness of your argument.
Mike, tell me why my mom, despite what Brian said, remains iconic.
It's your mom. I mean, this is a true story, right? Like, this is a true story from my heart, right? I hated my mom growing up, and because like, I was embarrassed in front of my friends because of her mental illness and stuff like that, and now I love that woman so much, and she is so iconic to me that all of our moms, like, when you grow up and become, like, you're saying that my monster mommy doesn't become iconic, but that is your mom that you grew up with. You start realizing that they are iconic. And yeah, obviously my argument is very dependent on situation, right? It's very dependent on the history that you had with video games taken away or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, in that moment, you feel what you feel, and you felt like your mom was a monster for taking away your video games. And so that's where my standpoint is. Sean, your mom is iconic. That's because all moms are iconic, because we know what they've gone through to discipline us dumb boys when we were growing up to disciplining us now as adult, like talking to us and sharing life with us. So all moms are iconic, but some moms, when we were kids, felt like monsters.
Okay, all right. Brian, I appreciate your approach with long history. Going back to classics and looking for a historical perspective on this, and then bringing to the table Shodan for both, like, what she's literally doing in the game and, like, what her mythology is. Great, love it. Mike, I'm partial, at least when I'm in that seat, bringing in the real world parts instead of sticking in games. That might have been an intentional play. I don't know. But
no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
I also think it was strong. Well, it would have been a little stronger. It would have been a little stronger, but I think it was strong at first. My initial impression was very strong, coming out saying with your mom. Love of your mom. Also, the implication therein that I was perhaps a monster coming from the mommy. Bold strategy in theory, but you kept bringing it back to your mom, which, I mean, you're not a monster. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think that you can still keep. You went, Brian, a lot digging into him and his point about moms being good fundamentally overall in this situation. Like, normally when moms are doing this, it is not coming from a monstrous place. But I think you could still take that temporary role on, because, like, my mom was very loosey goosey as well. But, like, if I woke her up at 2 a.m. with my friends just being little shits because we were too, like, loud or whatever. In that moment, like, it's not like bad monsters, but perhaps there is a little bit of a monstrous coming at it, which I can agree with. But I do have to give it to Shodan. I think, as much as I wanna
no,
as much as I want to make us do a Metacritic on a Barbie game. I think I do.
I thought my meme answer would be fun and
It would have been
win.
great. It was good. It was so close. It was so close.
Dang it.
Just the pitch
I
for
was shook.
even the
if
mechanics
I-
of Showdown.
Yeah, I was shook.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very strong. I thought when you brought it that it was gonna win. But that's not how the turn's tabled. You know?